99% of the time it led to masturbation, of course, and my feelings with that were that I'm feeling good and it's not hurting anybody, because this was before I'd taken to planning and grooming. I already knew my victim. My victim was part of my bad sexual fantasies, but at that time no offending had taken place. It was building up. I hadn't actually offended, but it was going to happen. As sure as God made little green apples, it was going to happen.
It's really lust to want somebody else. They can't say yes or no. It's lust. This is what I call it. If it's with somebody that consent and consensual, but I didn't mind for lust. That's all it was, because at the end of it I got what I wanted. There's no trying to be Mr. Nice Guy and say, well, I didn't really do it for this, but I did it for that. No, that's wrong. I did it for lust.
One of the ways was to be Mr. Nice Guy to my victim's parents, and do odd jobs and around the house and make them, make them laugh, tell a joke, and while this was going on, to actually show in front of them that it was all right if I put my arm around their child.
So you groomed the parents.
That grooming, and that was the grooming part of it too. And then it went further on planning and grooming of getting the child by themselves, and still putting my arm around them, and then inappropriate touching, and that's the abusing.
That idea of an adult man being that age and of a child, the idea of being friends, when you look back now using hindsight, what are your thoughts about it when you hear yourself saying that?
How stupid could I have been? How ill-considerate and self-centered and arrogant, that I could think, that I could befriend a girl of that age and expect it to. I don't think I expected it to last in any time, but while it was on, it was, yeah.
So you're using the word befriend to describe what?
A relationship.
Was it a relationship? When you think back now, was it a relationship?
No, it wasn't. At the time, it sufficed for a relationship, because that's what I wanted it to be.
What was it?
Sorry.
What was it really?
Intimacy.
What was it really?
It was a very I would like to say it was a loving relationship, but no, it wasn't. It was an abusive relationship, and that should never have gone as far as it did.
I'm very pleased to hear you say it was an abusive relationship, because it was.
I mean, the thing is, I could still abuse, and that's something that I know I have to remember. I now have to be aware of three things, which are my thoughts, my feelings, and my behaviour. And each one of those I have to say to myself, what's it doing for me? Is it taking me closer to offending, or is it taking me away? That's it. And this is until The last nail goes in my coffin. This doesn't stop.
So you're managing yourself until
Yep.
basically say
It's
today you die.
self-management. Self-management to the max. Yeah.
I'm here because I want to be. I want to put an end to my offending behaviour. And I think we're all here for the same reason. We're admitting that we've got a problem and that we want that help.
What has it been like to actually share some of your stories for the first time?
Very cathartic. You feel like a weight's being moved off your shoulders. You're no longer the only one that knows what's happened. I know for me, it's made me, I think, a better person because I'm no longer hiding that secret. And rather than keeping it a secret, you can now move forward.
I might have offended against one person, but the ripple effect going out from there is just absolutely massive. And that's something I'd never even thought of before. I will definitely never offend again.
How can you be sure?
Because now I know what I've put my victim through, mainly.
Do you understand now the danger signals or the triggers that might make you re-offend?
Yes, my alcohol. If I was drinking, I could be easily led and just do things.
When you leave jail and go back into the outside world, will you offend again?
No.
Do you know?
How do I know? Because I've got a more positive attitude in my life, and I know a direction that I want to take this time, and there'll be no alcohol.
Now, I had told her, prior to her inviting me to this property, like 24 hours prior, about my offending pattern, without going into too much detail, but I was very clear that it was a serious problem and that I was getting psychiatric support for that. And I think God might have blinded her a little to that aspect, and she accepted me for who God told her I was.
And he said to me, Sarah, how do you see me in this situation? Why are you telling me about it? And so I said to him, I believe God told me that we're to get married. And so we were married 5 weeks later. I suppose I believed in the Christian model that a person could receive healing, and when they received healing, you know, if your foot's healed, it's healed, you know.
When I became isolated and felt rejected and that sort of thing, I became vulnerable and did offend. There is definitely a component of grooming in my relationship with those children.
If you were to look at it on a scale, you would find that my husband had done so many wonderful things for those people, and they recognised that too. But there's no prizes for guessing what he'll be remembered for. I really didn't imagine that it would ever happen somehow, and I didn't know how to handle it or what to do about it. And I suppose I felt overwhelming grief. I love those children and that community. And I felt terrible shame and pain. And I just felt I was going to have a stroke, but I didn't.
I was very depressed and, what's the word, self-loathing, ashamed, and actually endeavoured to suicide. I got some cloth and an empty bottle and tried to screw it up around my neck to choke myself.
I've had to take all children out of my life, including my grandchildren, and that is a fairly special sadness, but it's obviously a sacrifice I have to make if I'm going to stay with him.